Peace, this is Jarrell with Quantum Light Consciousness. Today I want to talk about transmuting your own darkness, okay? Now, there's a lot of things going on in the spiritual world, in the mainstream media world, in the societal world that we all live in, where we have to understand what is true for us and what is understood through the eyes of the mainstream collective as a group of people who live on the planet collectively together as we co-create our reality. All right. I recently wrote a post on my blog about how to actually understand why duality doesn't work, and this video is going to be kind of like a play off that, of why darkness isn't exactly what you think darkness actually is. When you think about darkness, you kind of think about like things that go wrong, things that happen that you don't want to happen, things that stray off of the path of your best perceived outcome or of your highest and best timeline. Things that happen unfortunate, because there's a lot of popular notions that are perceived in our awakening community about how you need darkness, how darkness is always there, how darkness will always come back, and its only purpose is to make you stronger. All right, this isn't anything to do with common sense or logic, okay? What has to do with duality and the duality wheel, and how people are kind of hoodwinked and always getting into conflict and always warring and always going to get into some type of altercation within themselves and going to war with themselves and becoming bipolar and not actually understanding what it is to be enlightened when your brain works harmoniously with itself from the midbrain, okay? Yes, the brain is a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. However, there's also a center hemisphere. It's actually called the midbrain. So when you work the midbrain, you can actually understand yourself. You don't have to go, oh, it's dark side. Oh, it's the light side. Oh, it's dark age. Oh, it's a light age again. You know, you get off the duality wheel and you actually see your incarnation for what it is, and then you're actually able to take your higher selves out of that duality matrix, which is a whole playlist that I have here on YouTube. Okay, so check that out as well. So some of the points I went over in that blog post was how darkness actually isn't darkness. Darkness is really just a space for more light to exist, because when you have light, and that's all that there is, because source energy is what makes up light. Okay, light makes up everything. So when you have darkness, it doesn't really make sense when you have somebody who says, oh, there's dark and then there's light. What makes up the darkness? Source energy. It can't be anything else besides source energy. And what is source energy? Source energy is light. So what do you have when you have darkness? You have a lack of light. However, what makes up the fabric of the universe? Light. And that's basically what you have here. You have light. All right. So what I want to go into today is getting out of the darkness. All right. Getting out of that addiction to dark, stagnant, malicious, triggering energy, okay? Now, when I wrote this blog post about why duality doesn't work, I actually triggered a lot of people, and it's figures, right? It's because I'm talking about why their triggers aren't exactly logical. Like, yes, we all have things that we're working on. We all have things that annoy us, that are not relevant to what we actually want to have in our lives, that we have to deal with. However, there's ways that we kind of bring that on ourselves, all right? It's kind of like when somebody makes you angry, are you going to get angry, or are you going to choose not to react, Or when somebody gets in your way, or when something happens, when it doesn't go exactly the way you want it to go, are you going to get angry? Or are you going to get irritated? Or are you going to get triggered? Or are you going to not react and respond and stay in your alignment with who you are truly, within your center, within your core being, with your soul as your light body? Okay? Completely untriggered, unharmed, at peace, and serenity within the core of who you are, because that's who you are. Because the biggest thing right now is being addicted to this pain, this triggered energy, and people not understanding that they're being run by their own ego, right? When you're run by your own ego, you're basically, once somebody says something that you don't understand, or you haven't experienced yet, or you can't comprehend totally for yourself, you're just snapped back to where you already were, like where you already are, what you're comfortable with, and you're not willing or able to open your mind and listen to what is being spoken about, whether it is an extension of a spiritual truth, or whether it is an extension about your own truths that you're currently living that relate to you, whatever it is. You know, there's a lot of people who, you know, aren't willing to listen and aren't willing to expand and develop their consciousness to the level where they're continually growing and evolving as a person, which is fine. However, this video is for the people who are looking to do that. This video is for the people who actually understand the ego will limit you anytime you let it, right? The negative ego, all right? This negative ego is basically why the world is the way it is, the reason why duality exists, the reason why we have financial slavery, educational slavery, physical slavery for working. You know, it's like the things that exist don't exist out of the blue, out of nowhere, like by chance. It was designed by the negative ego to feed this addictive energy that is currently just feeding off people through their shadow aspects and their dark versions of self. All right, it's an entire like dark collective of like negative aspects that run each other on like different multiple levels of hierarchy until it gets down to the vessels, and the vessels, you know, if they don't form their own belief system, then their beliefs are belief for them. All right, so don't be one of those people. Actually look for yourself, discern for yourself, and live for yourself, because that's where your truth is. Your truth is from your inside outside. All right, live from your heart and you can't go wrong. All right, there's a lot of things that happen to people when they get hit with triggering energy. They start to think that they're actually that triggered energy. They start to think that they're actually that irritating energy, okay? And you don't have to go into that. You don't have to be anything near that. You can actually work your way out of that, okay? You know, you don't need that. All right, it's like the people who say, oh, well, we're playing a role here. I'm going to play the dark role this incarnation. I'm going to be this dark god or goddess, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to let this dark being take over and completely control me by ego and say that I'm still spiritual. Like, it's kind of like you're making it worse for yourself because you're just going into the loop again. All right. It's like when people say, oh, if we didn't have the roles of darkness and we played the dark roles of incarnations, then we would get bored. You kind of have to look into what boredom is. Like, if you're omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient God being, and you can create any type of incarnation over the span of eternity through any type of dimensions in any form, boredom isn't going to exist. When you look into that frequency, if you know how to read frequency, boredom is actually a form of depression. That's what boredom is. Like, you're not going to get bored. All right, so saying, oh, we need to actually be a dark role sometime to actually get our fill of fun, that's psychotic. That's actually bipolar disorder. All right, so to get out of that, like, it isn't just a earth thing. It's actually an existential thing. It's an existential disease that you have to stay out of. All right, so to stay out of it, you work on yourself. You meditate. You be mindful of your thoughts. You gauge your emotions. You ask yourself, am I experiencing the way I want to experience this moment right now when things happen out of my control? Okay? Am I doing the things that I could actually do to actually keep me on the same path that I want to keep going, that's going to make me the person I want to be, that's going to make me more of who I know I truly am, more resonant to my higher self, that I actually feel who I am in my heart? Is that what I want to do? Or do I want to go off the rails and be triggered and blow up on somebody because they said the wrong thing, or I don't agree with their belief system? Okay? It's kind of like you have to monitor yourself, and you have to parent yourself to like what you're going to allow in your field. Okay? I like to have a specific rule set. My rules are no hate, of course, no irritation, no anxiety, no fear. All right, that's basically it. Like simple steps. Like that stuff cannot exist if you actually want to actually cruise along altitude and move up, move forward, and go past your levels of previous existence and meet up with your higher selves and your ancestors and your spirit guides and your highest forms of self after you hit the levels of ascension when this incarnation is over. All right, that's what it's all about. It's about finishing strong. It's about going forward and living your life as you have already lived it, as you know you've already lived it. Like living from the end as now, as living from the future as the past, you know? So it's kind of like you become your own self-fulfilling prophecy to get past the things that anger you, that trigger you, that get you into anguish and pain. Like you're stronger than that. When you understand, like, you can actually embody your darkest versions of self and bring them back into the light, because at the core of their being is a light being. All right, so as you are a God being, you hold the key of source energy within you as source energy. So if you had a dark aspect who had fallen off to the wayside, off of your energy stream, that is in your energy field, triggering you every day, what you will want to do is actually contact with that shadow version of self, whether it is a higher self, whether it is, I don't know, an ancestor, whether it is a past aspect of you, maybe it's a wounded inner version of you. You want to actually heal that version of yourself. All right, so you can actually bring them back into the light, so you can actually heal, so you can stop being triggered and irritated and agitated and angered and infuriated by what goes on around you from the outside world, because it is not a sane world so much anymore, which it's obvious. Like if you can see, like, timelines are shifting. There's people who have one completely different school of thought, and then there's people who have another completely different way of thinking, and you take those type of people and put them in the same room, they're not even going to be able to understand the same language, because it's like they've been brought up on completely different belief systems. One believes in the indoctrination of traditional education, traditional government, traditional working and living systems, and then you have another being, say a star being, who believes in the free world, the free economy, living for themselves, being their own boss, and doing the things that make them empowered instead of working for somebody else and believing everything that's told to them. All right, there's always type A and type B people. You can find type A people in traditional society, and you can find type A and B people in the awakening community. All right, what matters to you is that you actually understand that you can control your own mind. Your own mind doesn't have to be run by your own ego, doesn't have to be run by any outside belief system. You actually put the parameters and the limits on where you're thinking and where you're believing in what and what you're feeling and when. All right, because that's what's most important. Okay. All right, so this is a quick little video.